Okay, so sticking with advertising, advertising is also correlated with gender stereotypes. So it increases gender stereotypes, and it's known to decrease body satisfaction. It increases unhealthy nutrition, and it increases drug use. So we'll see a couple examples here, but with the body satisfaction, we're not watching a video or anything, but when we see these mannequin-esque type public figures, or not just public figures, but like Instagram influencers and things like that, or like the supermodel eating a cheeseburger for a Hardee's ad or something, like that's going to decrease our own body satisfaction, which can lead to some really detrimental effects, including like eating disorders and things like that. So, but that same like advertisement for Hardee's or McDonald's that makes you feel bad about your body, it's also increasing like unhealthy nutrition. It makes us want to go out and buy those things that decrease our health habits. So an example of gender stereotypes is this commercial. And while you're watching this, just try to point out the stereotypes that you might see.
Did you know that every single flush flings odors onto your soft surfaces? Then they get released back into the air, so you smell them later. Ew, right? That's why Febreze created Small Spaces. Press firmly and watch it get to work. Unlike the leading cone, Small Spaces continuously eliminates odors in the air and on surfaces, so they don't come back for 45 days. Just imagine what it can do with other odors.
Okay, so two stereotypes there, really. And the gender stereotypes with the woman obviously is that the woman is in charge of cleaning and like your prototypical, stereotypical housewife, which is totally it's not a bad thing. And I'm not trying to say that like housewives in general are like a bad thing, because they're not. But it's unfortunate that we see advertising that just reinforces these stereotypes that make it somewhat unacceptable for other things, like a stay-at-home husband, or it doesn't help with any kind of inclusivity, there we go, of non-heteronormative relationships. And then the other stereotype there is that the teenage boy or the adolescent boy is messy and smelly, which is also like reinforcing this whole like boys will be boys thing. And it's not helping reduce stereotypes by any means. So just a good example there. And then it's for this reason in France, especially, advertisers are now required to tell you when an image has been photoshopped. So we go back to the body image thing. And this link down here, you can see a lot more information about this. But in France, they're requiring advertisers to put on, it's like a label, like a warning label, like this image is photoshopped. And it's crazy that we see this not just in advertisements, but like phones even have automatic built-in filters when you take pictures. Like I have a Google Pixel, and it changes how my face looks without me having to click a button to say, oh, I want this filter. So it's just something that's becoming like more normal in everyday life, but has been normal in advertising for a long time. And the detrimental effects are kind of explored in this article that I encourage you to go read on your own, about how these Photoshop or edited or unrealistic, both for men and women. It's really unhealthy to just be constantly fed this unrealistic, like ideal, and I put air quotes around ideal body image. That's just like impossible to achieve, right? So, and there are certain companies who you have like campaigns that are real women or this isn't Photoshop. They're not required to do that, but it's really nice that certain companies are including that in their health, or not health campaigns, but their advertising and marketing, in order to hopefully work toward a more normal body ideal or expectations. So interesting thing there. So this is a little Q&A on the components of the media's mixed revenue model. What do media sources sell advertisers? And it's consumer attention. So media sources, whether it's a newspaper or whether it is like a social media platform, they don't sell the products themselves. They sell the space in which the advertisers place the product. So they just sell. It's like a billboard, right? You'll drive sometimes and see, put your ad here or something like that. They just sell the space. So media sources are not really in charge of what you're being advertised. They're just in charge of the space. It's kind of like real estate for advertisements. And then going back to Unit 5, why do news outlets publish more news that will generate a lot of clicks or shares? And that's agenda chasing. And we talked about soft news, right? So there's a high choice media environment with soft news. Because there's a high choice media environment, journalists want to make more news, or news more entertaining, in order to continue to make more money. So we see a lot more soft news with a lot of advertisements, because that's really where they make the most of their money, right? So agenda chasing kind of summarizes that. And then we've seen a decline in advertising revenue in recent years, specifically among newspapers, which is really interesting, because the circulation revenue, which is just talking about like how many subscriptions they have, not related to advertisements, that has been on a steady incline. However, advertising revenue has dropped, which is really interesting in terms of what that means. And I don't think we really know what that means as of right now. But newspapers don't make as much, like not nearly as much money from their subscriptions as they do advertising. And there are some reasons why advertisers choose other media sources to advertise on. That's probably something to do with visibility. And if you know that most of society has like an Instagram account or a Facebook account or insert social media platform account, and you can reach them easier that way and potentially pay less money, then they'll probably choose that route for advertising rather than a newspaper, even if circulation revenue is climbing, right? So there's been a big social media boom, whereas newspapers and newspaper subscriptions are just gradually rising, which is good that they're gradually rising, but it's not reaching as large of an audience that way. So again, a really interesting article. I encourage you to go read it. The source, the link is on the PowerPoint there. And then why would newspapers not advertise more? So this is their choice too, right? So if they're not advertising more, which I don't know if any of you click on an article and then can't even read the article because of all the ads, that is like, that will stop me from actually reading an article, is if I can't like actually read the article because of all the ads that keep popping up. I'll just be like, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna, like, no, I'm not reading this. And that refers to ad revenue / subscription revenue balance. And yeah, we don't like reading articles that constantly get interrupted by advertisements. So if a newspaper loses their subscribers because of all the advertisements, and then it's like they're not reaching an audience. They're just, and their advertisers aren't reaching an audience either, right? So it's like a lose-lose situation. So they'll opt out of advertising more. So if we can not advertise more, how, I'm sorry this is in the way. Sorry, but also I've got a typo on this screen. I don't know where to put this thing. So I think that's how it's supposed to be. How can we make advertisements we do have more effective? Sorry about that typo. So if we cannot advertise more, how can we make the advertisements we do have more effective? And this gets into computational advertising. And basically this is just like, this is targeted advertisements. And this is specifically talking about like the advertising side of things. So we've engineered a way to target ads, basically, is what computational advertising refers to. And this thing is still in the way, and I don't know how to get it out of the way. An example of computational advertising is remarketing, and this is talking about cookies. And we always get asked if we accept cookies, but if we don't accept the cookies, then we can't access the content, right? So then we can clear the cookies, but then cookies are just a thing. Cookies that will always be a thing for, I mean, I can't say that indefinitely, but I imagine that cookies will always be a factor in online advertising. And cookies basically just get the information that you're viewing, and then it stores that to like your computer, and then advertisers can see the information that you've already viewed, in which they then target you based on the information that you've already used, right? It's like a little tracker. Another example of computational, actually, here's a video. I'm going to actually post this on eCampus and you can watch it on your own, but I really encourage you to watch it. It explains this much better than me. And we'll just keep moving in terms of this lecture. So another example of computational advertising is real-time bidding. I actually had a friend he worked for one of these advertising companies, and he did this. It was real-time bidding, and basically one of the ways that this works is through geolocation and geo-tracking, where your locations, like you can turn your location off most of the time, but then you forget and you leave it on and it's everywhere you go. But geo-tracking and geolocation is where like advertising agencies, not for a specific product, they're kind of like an agency that's like the middleman of the product, what they're advertising, and then the platform in which they're advertising on. So basically it's like if you, this happened to me the other day. I was down at Suncrest Town Center and I was looking at something, and there was an advertisement that came up for Primanti Brothers, and it was right there, right? So Primanti Brothers uses geolocation in order to sell advertisements, but to sell their product through advertisements, right? And real-time bidding refers to that agency in the middle of the Primanti Brothers and you, whichever platform you're on, and they'll place that advertisement in these people's phones or whatever, social media apps or whatever, and it happens really, really fast, right? Really interesting. So in order to see how all of this applies to your life, we're not doing like an actual activity, of course, because this is an online lecture, but just thinking about this, what computational marketing might you be subject to right now? So with your phone, with your computer, with Google, with Amazon, anything like that. Think about your usage of Amazon or whatever company, whatever website, and list all the data information that this company possesses about you. Consider what is this company doing or could do with the data about you to increase profits and keep you as a loyal customer. These people know where you live. They know like not just the city of where you live, but like what part of the city that you live or town that you live or whatever, how close you are to things, what your buying habits are. I buy bulk tea, right? Like hot tea. And I accidentally, because of an advertisement, but I thought it was my normal tea, was sold this like cold infusion tea that I don't really like as much, but I thought it was the same thing and it wasn't an advertisement. So I was just like, oh yeah, I should probably re-up on my tea, right? So yeah, they have access to like my buying habits on tea, or my buying habits on yoga pants, or my buying habits on like insert whatever. So they've got all of this information, and that directly impacts what advertisements you see. So it's really interesting how much control these large companies have over what you're even exposed to. You could be missing out on a lot of stuff and not even know it, because these advertisements are so directed at what you've already had and it's not giving you a lot of new stuff. So interesting to think about. And then just wrapping up with changes in the digital age, we have 3 affordances of new media in the digital age. And the first one is conversion. This is the ease of transfer from one device to another. You think about airdropping, even like you can connect to Bluetooth in a really easy way with most things, with most devices. Even it's easy to transfer things via text or via email. That is the ease of transfer from one device to another, right? But airdropping is like incredibly, I don't know, my mind, I still can't wrap my mind around it. The second affordance is compression. So there's more data in similar spaces. So we have a TV, a phone, a computer all in one on our smartphone. That's just an example. We can, like, we have smart TVs now that have like ways to surf the web, and like we can access our Hulu or Netflix or YouTube or whatever it is, all from our TVs now, right? So that's compression. We have more data in smaller spaces. And then finally, convergence. And I'm going to move this again because I want you to see the meme. And this refers to several functions within one device. It's very similar to the last one, but think about your phone and how you use your phone as a watch, as an alarm. You use it as a map, like your maps. What's that called? Navigation system. Sure. You use it as your computer. You use it as an actual phone sometimes, but maybe not as much as we use it for other things. So we've got all of these different functions within one device. Pretty incredible. And that's all I have for this section. And I will upload section 2 after this.